Well, good afternoon. I'm Ken Biberaj, and welcome to Coffee with Ken, a thought leadership series at the nexus of business, politics, and flex office, co-working, hospitality,
Yeah,
real estate. John, what
everything.
everything,
A little
right?
bit everything.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we're thrilled to be kind of back in person. We're continuing our trend to kind of have conversations live with an audience. We're here in downtown DC at 200 Mass at an amazing WeWork location. We have a full house here of people from across the DC area excited to hear from John Santora, the new CEO of WeWork. Great to see you, John.
Great to see you, Ken.
So, as is very common with WeWork CEOs, his fashion, his style, his controversy, his crazy socks, mustache, like, you're exactly what we expect, John.
That's as wild as I get, and the mustache has been there since 18 years old.
Well, in all seriousness, John, congrats on the role. You come to WeWork after, what is it, 47 years?
47 years with Cushman & Wakefield.
Cushman & Wakefield.
So grounded in real estate, that's
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
And what was this jump like? How did you get here?
So at that point in my career, I was debating what to do. I was, coming out of COVID, was handling a bunch of clients for C&W, but I didn't know what was next. I had stepped down from leadership roles and was kind of enjoying life. So Anand Yardi acquires
Yeah.
WeWork, and I picked up the phone and called them as Cushman & Wakefield, and I said, "You just bought a real estate firm. How can we help?" One thing led to another, and he said, "Why don't you come over and run the place for me?" And I took a step back, and 20 days later, I was sitting in a seat.
Well, that's quite a cold call, right? I mean,
Yeah.
not what you necessarily expect sometimes.
So I don't change too often. I'm married to the same woman, happily married to the same woman for 46 years, and
Wow.
worked at Cushman & Wakefield for 47.
Amazing.
Yeah, so
And you found your calling, and here we are.
ability is me.
That's amazing. Well, look, I think it's almost metaphorical, right? Like,
Yeah.
we are here and we work. It is a different feel vibe than maybe folks were accustomed to 10, 12 years ago at the origin. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, the tone that you symbolically set and what you want people to think about today about a WeWork experience?
I think if we look at WeWork today, it's maturing. I won't say it's fully matured, but it's maturing, right? We're now a privately held firm. We have no debt. We're investing in our portfolios. We're investing in our people. We just engaged the Ritz-Carlton for a training program for all our people around the world. So it's evolving. It's growing up
Yeah.
in its own way. We talked earlier, right? We don't have beer on tap anymore.
But what do you
Right? We
have?
got cold brew though.
So let's take it back real quick. Like 9 months ago, you come in, bankruptcy, working through that. What was that moment like for you, the organization, and what was that kind of restructuring? If I'm not mistaken, it was the largest real estate restructuring out of bankruptcy almost ever.
Yeah, I think it is ever.
Yeah.
Massive restructuring. Today we still have 45 million square feet around the world, about a third less than what we had at its peak. Most of that, like during bankruptcy, we could address the U.S. portfolio. The global portfolios were different based on bankruptcy laws, but we were able to get through a lot. I credit the team, the leadership team, of doing so much during that period and helping to reposition. When I got involved, we still had some things we had to push across the line. Every one of the deals around the world have been closed now and set. We have actually one outstanding in Brazil that we're working through, but we'll get through that one as well.
But so when you look at the news, lots of exciting things on your side of the table, large Amazon deals and so on. So would love to kind of get a sense of, like, today, if you're an early stage company, a corporation, enterprise, how are you targeting different industries? Is WeWork still for everyone? Like, what's the kind of push from a growth perspective of tenancy?
Yeah. So WeWork is still for everyone. When you look at our membership base, right? So you have the 1 to 9s that we call them, which is the entrepreneur, the startup company. That's what we're known for, right? So we're an important part of that ecosystem. For example, we have 220 AI firms in our spaces.
Wow.
And they go from the onesie twosies all the way up to the biggest names that we read about each and every day in the stock market and
Sure.
the business market. Everyone throughout that chain. As a matter of fact, yesterday, Forbes came out with the 50 largest AI firms.
Yeah.
24 of them are in our spaces. I don't know what happened to the other 26. We'll have to get them, but there's 24 in our spaces.
That's amazing.
Think about it.
Yeah.
So that's you have the small entrepreneurs, and as they grow, many of them grow within our spaces. That mid to small business, that's 30% of what we do. That's the local firms, the the small accountant or whatever service firm that's in your market that needs a home, and whether they by coming to us, they get this wonderful common area, they get the receptionist, they get the technology, they get the build out that they don't have to do themselves. All right. And then you get on to the other end, the enterprise clients that you meant. You mentioned Amazon, but we have 47 of the Fortune 100 sit in our spaces. If you think of every big technology firm, every so you got technology, all many of the banks. I think it's 6 of the top 10 banks or somewhere around there. I mean, we've spoken to every one of them recently. Many of them in our spaces, maybe not in New York where their headquarters are, but around the world.
Sure.
Right. So we provide that option for them. The other piece that we don't think about, but that is really cool, is that all access, that black card. So today I've been at Semaphore the last day and a half, and I was chatting with the CEO of a large technology firm that's based in India. And he said to me, I absolutely love your space. And he says, we're in 4 or 5 markets around the world. He said, but I was in New York the other day with my family on vacation. He said, and I've got 5 kids. He said, I had to do a 5 a.m. conference call. I took out my phone. I found out the nearest WeWork. And at 5 a.m., I walked over, hit my card on the door, got in, turned on the technology, and it just worked.
Wow.
And I really love that line. It just worked. Right? That's where we want to be, the easy button.
Nice. Well, contrary to popular belief, I don't just drink coffee. I work at Savills, a global commercial real estate firm, and we help, tenants explore the market. Where should they be? How do they think about space, return to office, all challenging dynamics that everybody's thinking about.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about why it matters so much that you came from real estate, and almost do a little bit of a kind of 101, right? Like, how do you partner with brokers, with landlords, with tenants? And why is it so important that you came from industry to understand that?
So I think, first off, we have a 45 million square foot portfolio, right? So we have to manage it. We have to deal with extensions, build outs, all the things that go on with owning a large portfolio. But from a brokerage perspective, let's go there. You are our entrance into a lot of these clients, right? And we support you. We bring you in. We love to engage you because that's a key for us, just like any landlord. We are a landlord at the end of the day. With 45 million square feet, we got to fill up. So engaging with the brokerage community and sharing what benefits we bring to your clients and showing that are key important parts of it. Our dealings with landlords, right? So we are their tenant, but in 120 or so locations, we have revenue share or management agreements with them. So we manage a space, a WeWork space, that on behalf of the landlord, and we reduce our risk, and we make a fee on it, just like you manage a building or manage your portfolio, which is another great way that engages people in a building, that brings life, like the space and the life that we have here, especially in a building in its early cycle.
Sure.
Where it has lots of vacant space, so we can come in, energize that building, bring people into it, and some of them grow into be formal tenants of the building. What was the other one? So we had landlords, tenants, brokers, all work.
Covering it all. Amazing. So when you look at like return to office, what are the kind of post-pandemic, we're now kind of in a little bit more of a stable situation. How are companies dealing with that? What trends are you seeing? Are people staying in WeWorks longer and just being more established there? Are they using it as a launch pad? Have things changed, or is it the same way they used to?
It's kind of a combination of all of that. We have this whole group, though, that are coming to us asking us to build out the space for them and do a 5-year term, a 3-year term, in some cases even longer. And it was surprising to me, they looked to us to put the capital out. And they looked to us to actually do the build out. And the first conversation I had with that was a major tech firm. And I said, so wait a minute, you kind of have money falling out of your pockets. And my capital's pretty expensive. They say, yeah, but when I got to go to the CFO to try to get money for real estate, I'm competing against this, I'm competing against the research and the new AI platform we're building. I never get that money. But if it's just a lease, And so lease is pretty expensive because you rolled all the capital in it. He says an operating lease, go ahead and do it.
Fascinating.
So it's a great entrance and a way for them to meet their real estate needs and without having to go through this, long cycle with the CFO, and sometimes even has to go to the board to
Sure.
approve any leases, right? So they don't have to go through that process.
Easy button.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's what I usually do.
When you think about the
So
future, yeah,
no, just to finish your question. So that's one way of handling it. The other way is where as they come back in certain markets, right? Instead of going back to another lease, they've already subleased their space, or they bought out of their lease, or their lease expired. They'll come back to us and they'll sit in our spaces for a period of time and then maybe take their lease down. But that 2-year period is trying to figure out how many people actually going to come to work, how many days a week are they going to come to work, and should we be in this market? And that leads to headlines that came out of a conversation today. The tariffs put increased um, concern, right? Markets pause. What's the charges going to be? What's the tariffs going to be? Can I actually continue my business in Brazil or in some of these markets around the world? So people hesitate, and when people on a hesitation, they'll come to us,
yeah.
fill that gap.
I mean, WeWork's origin really kind of, if you think about it, post financial crisis, lots of uncertainty, new companies getting started, needing flexibility. Now we're in a bit of a
Similar
turbulent
situation.
situation, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you think the headwinds of tariffs, Doge, uncertainty, especially in this market, we're in DC, how do you think that's going to play out, and how can you be a resource for people as they navigate it?
So I think when you look at DC, gets impacted more than
Yeah.
most markets without question, right? Especially with Doge and the layoffs that will follow behind that, or have started and will likely follow behind it, wherever it settles out, right? I don't know that anybody disagrees that we have some savings that can happen within government. It just, as any company goes through that process, the government needs to do that. But I'm not taking a political stance. What happens though is you're going to have some empty space,
Yeah.
right? And we're going to have to figure out where those people go. The government may look to sell some of those buildings. I think it's going to put real stress on this market. For us, again, for the people as they come back, as the firms come back and they try to enter into the market, or maybe some of these groups will start new little businesses and come to us, and we'll help them through that process as well.
Interesting.
But I think there's some challenge here for
Yeah. And how do you think about growth, right? So, you're coming out of bankruptcy, you're stabilizing, finalizing leases. It could be management opportunities, or it could be straight leases. In the next 5 years, where do you envision WeWork headed?
I think it's a couple of things. One, we will balance out the management agreements, the revenue share agreements, and the leases. Leases provide us with the greatest upside. It also provides you access to some of the best buildings. Right? We tend to find that when there's a management agreement opportunity, it's not the best building. It's either a challenge building, challenge location, or a building that needs some help and needs our help. So, we're happy to do it. Um, but I think as I look out over the next 5 years, so first of all, stabilization. We're stabilizing the company now. Again, no debt. We've right-sized the organization. We've right-sized the portfolio. So it's upside and growth from here. We're going to look at other ways of creating revenue streams too. What are the ways we can create big revenue streams and provide different services to our clients and to people that aren't clients yet today? Um, Moving into other markets, I'm not sure about that.
Sure.
Today somebody grabbed me at Semaphore and said, "I just heard your speech. We have this market in the Middle East that we'd like you to come into, and I have a great location for you." And I said to him, "That's really great. Thank you." He said, "I'll call you." I said, "You know what? Give me 6 months to settle in." And he looked at me. I said, "And while you're thinking about that, I'm a $2.5 billion revenue stream. Are you going to move that needle for me? Should we actually start up a whole business in that market? How much are you going to really move the needle?"
Yeah.
Right. So entering new markets,
Mhm.
it's got to move the needle.
Yeah.
So
And I feel like that's a bit of the tone differentiator with you coming in,
Yeah.
right? We were chatting a little bit earlier about back in the heyday, there was We Live and We City and We World, and there was like
Yeah.
a lot going on, right? But
Right.
it seems like you want to kind of hold the course straight and kind of
Yeah. Yeah, look, first steps is to get profitable. We have the last 2 quarters were a positive EBITDA for the first time in the company's history.
Huh.
So that's, pretty good
Yeah.
all around. Thank you for the applause. Um, so, my view is not only we got to be EBITDA positive, we've got to get the cash flow positive. We're spending upwards of $100 million, between 80 and $100 million this year in upgrading our spaces, refreshing our spaces, upgrading some of the technology. Um, we need to do that. And that's not just this year. I think the next few years we're going to have that kind of spend. So reinvesting in the people, reinvesting in the product is going to help us continue to grow our business.
So this flex office industry has grown, right? I mean, it started with Regis and others, right? So it's a bit of a more mature sector. What sets WeWork apart now in a more competitive landscape?
So I think a couple things. One, we are the one firm that handles from 1 to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, however seats you may need in that process. Two, it's a global footprint, right? Some of the others that have been talked about out there have a U.S. footprint or a handful of good markets in the U.S. and have some strength in those, but can't provide those services around the world. Three, look, at the end of the day, there's a coolness factor. Our community teams provide a great environment and atmosphere for our members to really succeed and enjoy the space and help to bring people back to the office.
I mean, you got Coffee with Ken here. I mean, this is like,
I'm going to do this around the world.
really amazing people. But let's drill down on that, right?
Yeah.
There is a bit of a secret sauce, right? It's not like a landlord could take a floor. I mean, some have tried and set up small suites and put some coffee in the middle, right? Like there has to be intention behind it,
There's a whole process behind it, and the learnings that have gone on in this company for years and years. And when a landlord does, and I say this to my landlord friends, okay, so you have one building, you need to go out and you got to hire a couple of community managers. You have to figure out how to train them. You've got to now put in the coffee, and you got to go negotiate with the coffee guy and how much that costs, and all the expenses that go with operating that. This is what we do for a living, right? You build buildings, we know how to run flex space, and we do it better than anybody else.
Yeah. So as a kind of call to action, right? Some folks in the room today I talked to, they've been members of WeWork. They had never been in a WeWork. What do you want people kind of walking out of this space feeling, thinking, as they go on with their day?
I think as you walk around this space and, enjoy this conversation, hopefully, right? And some coffee or the bar after, you see how open it is, you see how it flows, you see how people are enjoying, and pretty much the end of the day, but how people work together and the collaboration that happens. I think that's what's missing, right? And if you look back, and you and I have been around a little bit, the old corporate offices, right? And lobbies had nothing. They had a desk at the end of the hallway that you checked in and you waited for somebody to come out and get you. This is what has been created. And who created that? We created that, right? I mean, if you look back, WeWork is what's changed the way spaces look and feel. And we're continuing to evolve down there, evolve through that, as well as our technology that allows you to utilize all the conference rooms and pay as you use and know how many people are actually in your space and what you're paying for.
So let's talk a little bit about you as a leader, creating your own culture and environment for the WeWork employees. But by de facto, you're creating culture for other companies with the space and the design. So talk a little bit about the importance of design, staying ahead of the curve on that side. So creating your own culture and then how you help others, create their culture.
So I think just from my perspective, I'm structured, I'm disciplined, and I think this company needed this at this point. They needed a certain level of structure and discipline, maybe not as much as I bring with me. We'll find our way. So again, the socks. I'm going to go
pushing the limit.
a minute. I have tried, I can't tell you how many times to wear jeans to work. And I get up in the morning and I say, I'm wearing jeans today. And I go in the closet and I put on a pair of jeans, put on a sports jacket. I said, that looks stupid. Go back in. 40 minutes later, my wife is saying, aren't you going to work? Yeah. And I come walking out in a suit or a sports jacket and dress pants. Just the way.
This is okay.
But we all have our own way, right? And the culture works amongst all of us. We have that. And there's just an easiness about our organization and helping people and just welcoming them into our spaces, and that culture needs to stay. Now, I say we've engaged the Ritz-Carlton. It's to take it to one more level, right? When you go to a Ritz-Carlton, there's just that notch up. I want us to be just that notch better, right? So that's part of it. I also, we are looking at our call center and help desks and everything else. I think it's one of our challenges, and it's not if somebody wants to engage our space, but sometimes there's billing issues or I lost my card. We get 50,000 calls a month to our help desk and everything else. It's a challenge, but I want it to be the absolute best in the world. And I'll use one of our customers for an example. Amazon is the absolute best when you got to return something, right? You get some stick and you put it in there, you take it somewhere and it's gone.
Yeah.
I want us to be the absolute best. If you have an issue, you pick up a phone, you send an email, you send a text, it's done.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something else that I want us
Beautiful.
to get to. Right?
So as we kind of close out, we were joking at the beginning, right? Like, as we work a real estate company, a tech company, hospitality. In all seriousness, how do you think you fit in these sectors, right? You're a real estate guy, right? Like,
yeah, I say that we're a real estate company that provides hospitality, right? We lease office space and we sublease office space, right? And you want to get down to brass tacks.
Yeah.
That's what we do. And we provide you a service in there. We provide you some hospitality. We provide you some technology and some coffee and amenities.
Yeah. But the flexibility to grow, shrink, contract, relocate, etc.
Yeah, that's the important part.
Yeah.
Right.
Amazing. Well, John Santora, it is such a good pleasure to have you. So exciting what you're doing here at WeWork. We love the hospitality, the team, the network that you've created here. And it's so good to see you. And we're excited to have happy hour. We're pivoting to cocktails with Ken, and we're so grateful for everybody tuning in. It's coffeewithken.com. Thanks for watching.
Ken,
John.
thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Right.